Hi, my name is Sheridan Gaxiola. I will be presenting on Joseph S. Lawley. Let's see. Joseph S. Lawley he was born in 1952 and he died in 2001. He received his PhD from, I think, Lehigh University, and he taught at the University of Pennsylvania from 1990 to 1999. And he published over 100 articles through JABA throughout his career. So the first article that I read from Lawley was The Effect of Reinforcer Preference on Functional Analysis Outcomes. So they had 3 different kids with developmental delays, and they all were experiencing problem behaviors. He split up the experiment into 3 phases, serving as like the functional analysis. So they wanted to test it through attention, access to materials, and then escape maintained behaviors. And so what they would do is that they would have each kid into the different phase, and they would see how like removing a toy or giving social reinforcement like through like attention from an adult, and then also like giving toys contingent on the problem behavior or contingent on the good behavior, how that would affect the occurrence of the problem behavior. And the results from the study that the problem behavior is reduced once the function was realized, and then they could give that contingently on the preferred behavior. So if they wanted it to be like a couple questions, they would be able to receive the toys. But in this specific study, it was mainly playing nicely with the peers. And so if they were playing nicely with the toys, then they could get like attention from the adult, and I guess vice versa for the other functions. The functional analysis and treatment of eye poking with response blocking is the second article I read. It was just one participant who engaged in eye poking behavior. She already wore glasses, and they used response blocking. And so what response blocking is just, blocking the response. And so every time she would go to try to poke her eye, they would stop her. And they realized that the most beneficial way of doing that is through goggles, because then they don't have to be there for it. It's just already going to block it. So they started with goggles, and then they cut out the sides of the goggles. And then after that, they switched to swim goggles, and then they switched back to her normal eyeglasses, which is really cool because with all intervention, we want it to be able to generalize to daily life. And she wears those glasses every day, and there's not always going to be somebody next to her to block her eye poking. And so the fact that they were able to use her normal eyeglasses to stop the behavior is awesome. That way it can happen all day for her, even if she's at school or wherever she might need to be. Third is the treatment of escape-maintained aberrant behavior with escape extinction and predictable routines. So they had a daily schedule for the kids. I guess it was just 2 18-year-old adults, which aren't kids, but they described what each task would look like, and they taught them how to do it and when to do it. And so it's what time of the day to do it, how long that task should take them, and what task they should be doing. And so they taught these 2 adults how to do those things, and then they expected it from them. And they did escape extinction by making them complete each task regardless. So if a certain task like showering, they maybe gave them like 10 minutes to shower, and the participant took 15 minutes, they wouldn't let them stop. They would make them keep showering. Or if they had to clean the kitchen, if they wanted them to do it in 20 minutes and the person was taking longer, they made them finish. And so there was no escape from that task. And pairing the escape extinction as well as the scheduled, so they knew what was expected of them. It increased the compliance of the two guys. So for the first guy, it was 26% to 79% compliance, and the second one, it was 18% to 86% compliance, which is a massive increase, which is really awesome because it's teaching them responsibility. And the main tool that they used was just kind of letting them in on what's expected of them and teaching them how to do that and how to do that in a timely manner. So let's see, the fourth article was treatment of multiply controlled problem behavior. And this is with just one participant. It was a little boy and his mom. So he would get pretty aggressive with his mom anytime she wanted him to stop playing and to clean up. And so they used a variable ratio schedule to help him. Kind of like with the escape too, because he didn't want to do it and he still wanted access to those reinforcers. So they use a VR2 schedule for the materials. So every 2 times he listened, he got his toys. And for escape, they did a VR5. So for each 5 times he listened and followed the instructions, he was allowed a 30-second break. And along with those 2 things, they increased his social interaction with the adults, so whether that was like the mom or the experimenter, because that helped reinforce the behavior of him complying with the instructions. And that's really useful, especially I currently work with kids with autism, and that's one of the main skills we work on is being able to listen. And that's super important for the families because they deal with that every day. And if a kid is, because this specific child in the study was hospitalized because his behaviors were so aggressive that the mom, she couldn't really put up with it because it was dangerous for her and for the child. And so it's a very important skill, and just using functional analysis, Lolly was able to see what he needed and then give that to him based off of whether or not he was listening, which is awesome that he was able to help with that child. The last one is non-contingent reinforcement as treatment for severe problem behavior, some procedural variations. So this was 3 children in an inpatient hospital, and they used 3 phases like in the first study that I mentioned. But I really like this one because I feel like, at least from what I've contacted in the world of ABA, I haven't read as much about non-contingent reinforcement. I think it's so awesome that so pretty much he, regardless as if the child was acting out aggressively or trying to escape or whatever, they just were like, yeah, you can keep playing with your toys. And then they kind of switched that to like, okay, now if you do this, then we can play with this really fun toy, and so just by giving him that non-contingent reinforcement, the child kind of saw the connection that if I do this, then I can get this super special one, and everybody's here for me and here to help me. And so I think that's a great way to teach kids how to use reinforcement to benefit themselves, because sometimes kids don't really understand that there is a trade-off that happens in life. We will give you this if you do this, and this will happen if you do this. And so it's a good skill to help teach young children the value of reinforcement. And the last slide is why his work is important. He studied the importance of functional assessment, which is awesome. It's critical for every intervention because you need to know why somebody is acting the way they are before you can change that behavior. And pretty much every article that I saw, he used that every time. So that's a really good thing to incorporate into experiments. He used both reinforcement and punishment, showing the benefits and harms of both. So his form of punishment would be the response blocking. It's not necessarily positive punishment, but it's still punishment. And then he also showed a variety of participant settings and problem behaviors and how to reduce them. So it's really good to generalize for all the different types of problem behaviors you may come across with. But yeah, that's my presentation. He was an awesome guy, and he did a lot of good research for the field. So thank you.